Remember that congruent figures have the same size and shape. Well, congruent angles are angles that have the same size and shape. If we take an angle and we duplicate it, and we know that they're going to be identical, then we would say these two angles are congruent because they have the same size and shape. So by definition, two angles that are congruent have the same measure. Let's name these angles. We'll have angle A and we'll have angle B. And there's a couple different statements we could write. Let's first write a congruent statement. We could say that angle A is congruent to angle B. In this statement, we're saying angle A is congruent to angle B. What we're saying is they have the same size and shape. We could also say that the two angles have the same degree measure, but we would write that a little bit differently. We would say the measure of angle A is equal to the measure of angle B. The difference between these two statements is subtle, but it's important. Again, the bottom statement, we're saying the two angles A and B, have the same size and shape. And the top statement, we're saying the measure of angle A is equal to the measure of angle B, meaning that if angle A had a degree measure of 25 degrees, we would know that B also had a degree measure of 25 degrees. What if we came across this diagram, but we weren't told that the two angles were congruent? You can never assume that two angles are congruent just because they look congruent, but if the diagram is marked like this, let's say it has one arc on here and the same arc on here, that would imply that the two angles are in fact congruent. You may also see a double arc and a double arc because maybe a single arc is taken. You could have two angles up here and single arc might have been used for those guys. So double arc would be what you would use next. You could also see triple arc going with triple arc. Another thing that you might see is tick marks. You could see angle A congruent to angle B because of tick mark here. And same thing, you could have double tick marks, triple tick marks, and so on. As long as they have the same number of tick marks, that implies those two angles are congruent to each other.